I've lived in my house for 5 years. It's an old place, built in the early 1900s, with all the charm and creaks you'd expect from a century-old home. The basement has always freaked me out a bit. It's cold, damp, and smells faintly of mildew. But I'd never paid it much attention beyond the occasional trip to store boxes or grab tools, until last week. I was moving some old furniture when I noticed a draft. At first, I thought it was just the basement being drafty as usual, but then I realized it was coming from behind one of the shelves. The air was colder, almost icy. Curious, I pulled the shelf away from the wall, and that's when I saw it. A small wooden door, barely taller than a crawlspace hatch, covered in peeling paint. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't on the house inspection report when I bought the place, and I had never noticed it before. It had no handle, just a keyhole. I should have stopped there. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my toolbox, picked the lock, thank you, YouTube tutorials, and swung the door open. Behind it was a narrow stone staircase spiraling down into darkness. The air that rushed out smelled wrong, damp, metallic, and faintly sweet like rotting fruit. Against every ounce of better judgment, I grabbed a flashlight and started descending. The steps felt endless. The farther I went, the more the walls seemed to close in. When I finally reached the bottom, I found myself in a small, circular chamber made of smooth stone. In the center was a well. It looked ancient, the edges worn smooth, as if by centuries of use. Here's where it gets weird. As I shined my flashlight around, I noticed something scratched into the walls. Words. Over and over, the same phrase, "Do not look down." I backed away from the well, heart pounding, but then I heard it. A soft, wet sound like something shifting in the water. My flashlight flickered, and in the brief darkness I swear I heard a whisper, faint like it was coming from miles below. Help me. I should have run. I should have bolted back up the stairs and sealed the door forever. But something about that voice, it didn't sound threatening. It sounded desperate. Against my better judgment, I leaned over the well and aimed my flashlight down. The beam barely reached the water. It was black and still, reflecting nothing. But as I stared, the surface began to ripple. Slowly, something started to rise. At first, I thought it was a person, a head, pale and smooth, breaking the surface. Then I saw the eyes, round, lidless, and too large for its face. Its mouth was wide, filled with needle-like teeth, and it was smiling. The whisper came again, louder this time. Help me. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I don't remember sealing the door or pushing the shelf back in place. But I must have, because when I came to, I was sitting on my kitchen floor, shaking, the basement door locked tight. Since then, I've heard noises at night, soft scratching, like something trying to find its way out. Last night, I found muddy footprints leading from the basement door to my bed. I haven't been back down there. I don't think I ever will. But the scratches are getting louder, and I can't help but notice they're starting to sound like words. Help me. Every night at exactly 3:03 a.m., something walks down our street whistling softly. The sound drifts through the stillness, a cheerful yet unsettling tune. Da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. If you're in the living room or kitchen, you can hear it passing by. It begins faintly at the Carsons' end of the street, grows louder as it nears, and then fades as it heads toward the cul-de-sac. The only rule? Don't look at the whistler. My sister Nola and I were warned about this rule from the moment we moved in. Our parents didn't elaborate much, but Dad's grave demeanor and the way he locked the canvas blinds every night told us enough. Thick shutters covered every window in the house, secured by small locks whose keys Dad kept on him at all times. The whistling was not to be acknowledged and certainly not seen. The rule didn't feel like a burden, though. Our neighborhood was a special place full of good fortune. People found arrowheads in their yards, won raffles they didn't enter, and gardens bloomed unnaturally vibrant. It was as though living here came with a million little blessings, as Mom liked to say. We moved here for one of those blessings. Nola was born with fragile lungs, and the doctors didn't expect her to make it home. But from the moment we settled in, she began to recover. By the time she was 2, the machines were gone and her health was unexplainably strong. But blessings come with a price. And in our neighborhood, the price was a strict adherence to the rule. We knew not to break it even after the welcoming committee. Friendly neighbors armed with casseroles and manila folders told us why. The whistler, they said, brought tragedy to those who looked for it. The folder contained grim stories, families destroyed by accidents, lives unraveled by freak misfortunes. Not everyone dies, one neighbor told my dad, but the light goes out of them. For 7 years, we lived by the rule. The whistler came and went every night, and we kept the blinds locked tight. Life was good, simple, and happy, until Holden came to stay. Holden, our new neighbor's son, was 12 and stayed with us one night while his parents were away. He was full of restless energy, brimming with questions about the whistling. Nola and I avoided the topic, but Holden wouldn't let it go. He wanted to know who it was, why no one ever looked, if we'd ever tried. We shut him down, offered popcorn and Nintendo, but Holden's curiosity simmered under the surface. As 3 a.m. approached, I grew uneasy. Holden's grin widened as he revealed his plan. He'd taken the key to the blinds from my dad's nightstand. My heart sank. Holden wasn't bluffing. I rushed to my parents' room to check, but the whistling began as I cracked the door. My breath caught. It was louder in their room, closer than I'd ever heard. I fled back to the living room where Holden stood at the window, unlocking the blind. "Stop," I whispered, panic threading my voice. But it was too late. The blind snapped up. The whistling stopped. Nola trembled against me as I grabbed her, shielding her from the window. My eyes stayed shut. "Don't look," I whispered. "Don't turn around." Holden, though, had already seen. When I finally managed to pull the blind down, he was pale and shaking, staring at the closed window as if it still held some terrible sight. The knocking started then. Soft at first, a polite tap, tap, tap at the front door. Then louder, a pounding that shook the house. "Don't answer it," Mom whispered, clutching Nola and me tightly. The knocking moved, now at the back door, then the windows, then the walls. A cacophony of thuds and rattles that encased the house. Holden whimpered, begging for it to stop, but the tapping returned, soft and deliberate, at the window he'd opened. "Please go away," he sobbed. The tapping continued until sunrise. By morning, the house fell silent. My dad opened the blinds cautiously, declaring it safe. Holden's parents came for him later that day, and by the end of the week, they were gone, their house packed up and empty. They didn't say goodbye. I couldn't blame them. Holden's light was gone, his once vivid eyes dulled with something heavy and permanent. I knew then what the committee meant about a life without light. We still live in the neighborhood, still hear the whistler pass every night. But now we're more careful. The key is hidden well and no one comes over after dark. We don't break the rule. Some things, I've learned, are better left unseen.